Have you ever thought about how powerful it is to say nothing at all? To pull back and let the silence speak for you? When you stop talking to someone, you're not just stepping away. You're making a statement that demands attention without uttering a single word. Silence isn't weakness. It's strategy. It's like stepping off the stage in the middle of a performance. Suddenly, all eyes are on you. The question is, what will they do when you stop chasing and start valuing yourself? In today's deep dive, we're not just exploring what happens when you stop talking. We're uncovering the raw emotional truth about how it shifts the entire balance of power. It's time to flip the script. They're no longer in control. You are. This is about understanding the power of absence, of mystery, and of regaining your dignity without ever having to beg for it. As the Stoics teach us, the best revenge is not to be like your enemy, and silence is your secret weapon, poised, calm, and unshakable. Here's where it gets interesting. When you decide to stop talking, something magical happens. People who took you for granted start to feel your absence like a shadow hanging over them. Your silence becomes louder than their words. They might not say it outright, but deep down, they'll wonder why you're no longer there and why the energy they once counted on has disappeared. That's the moment they start to question everything about you, about themselves, and about the connection they took so lightly. Let me tell you, the end of this video will unlock something you absolutely need to hear. A powerful insight that could transform how you see yourself and how others respond to you. You'll walk away not just with answers, but with the confidence to navigate these situations like a master of Stoicism. So stick around, because this one piece of wisdom could be the turning point you've been waiting for. Before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe if you're ready to reclaim your power and your peace. Hit the like button if this resonates with your experience, and press the bell icon so you never miss another deep, thought-provoking video. Now here's a challenge for you. In the comments below, share what you think will happen when you stop talking to someone. How do you think silence shifts the balance? Let's discuss and grow together. Now let's get started. You're about to learn something that could change the way you see everything. 1. The ripple effect of your silence. When you stop talking to someone, it's like pulling a thread from a tightly woven fabric. Everything starts to shift. The sudden absence of your voice leaves an echo, one that can't be ignored. Silence, when intentional, has a weight that words never could. It creates an undeniable ripple, a space where they're left to face the questions and doubts they'd avoided before. At first, there's shock, even confusion. They may wonder, why did this change? What's different now? But here's the truth. Their confusion isn't yours to solve. Stoicism reminds us that we control only one thing, ourselves. Marcus Aurelius said it best. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Their questions and emotions are not your responsibility. Trying to fix what they're feeling is like trying to catch smoke with your hands. Pointless and exhausting. Think of silence as a mirror. When you pull back, they are forced to look at themselves in that mirror, reflecting on their actions, their choices, and the imbalance they might have overlooked. It's not about punishing them or playing games. It's about stepping back to protect your peace. You're not abandoning the stage. You're pausing to reclaim your power. And that pause speaks louder than any words you could ever say. Questions might pop into your mind. What if they don't care? What if they don't notice? Let's address that. If they don't care, you've just saved yourself endless time and energy chasing someone who isn't worth it. And if they do notice, that's when the real magic happens. Silence makes people uncomfortable. It disrupts their comfort zone and forces them to think, sometimes for the first time, about what they're truly feeling. Imagine someone walking into a room filled with noise. Suddenly, the music stops, and the silence is almost deafening. That's what happens when you stop talking to someone who's grown used to your presence. They feel the shift, even if they don't admit it. They may begin to question what went wrong, but more importantly, they'll start to realize what they might lose. Your silence becomes a spotlight, highlighting the absence they didn't expect. This moment is not just about them, though. It's about you. It's about understanding that you don't need to chase anyone for validation. Silence is a powerful teacher, showing you that your peace, your self-worth, and your dignity are not negotiable. When you stop running after someone, you stop handing them the key to your happiness. You're taking that key back, unlocking the door to your own strength. As Epictetus wisely said, "We suffer not from the events in our lives, but from our judgment about them." Their reaction or lack of it doesn't define you. You're not playing a game, and you're not trying to manipulate them. You're simply stepping away from what doesn't serve you. Silence is your declaration that you value your energy and your time more than someone's inconsistent attention. Here's where the real beauty of Stoicism comes into play. In the quiet, you find clarity. By not reacting impulsively, by not explaining yourself, you show that your self-worth isn't tied to anyone else. You stand firm, grounded in your independence, creating a foundation of strength that no external force can shake. If this resonates with you, take a moment to affirm your power. Type, "Silence is my weapon" in the comments. Let this be your reminder that your silence isn't emptiness, it's presence, it's power, and it's peace. In that silence, you'll find everything you've been looking for within yourself. 2. When silence sparks reflection. When you stop chasing someone, you don't just create distance, you create space for reflection. It's a pause in the rhythm, a shift that disrupts the usual dynamic. Suddenly, they're left wondering what caused the change. They may replay moments in their mind, searching for clues. Was it something I said? Something I did? These questions will echo louder in your absence because silence is a mirror, forcing them to confront things they've ignored. But here's the part many overlook. This moment of reflection isn't just about them, it's about you. Silence isn't just an opportunity for them to think, it's a chance for you to realign with yourself. Stoicism teaches us to focus solely on what we can control, our thoughts, our actions, and our reactions. As Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Their reflections, their confusion, their questions, none of that is within your grasp. But what is in your control is how you use this silence to grow. Now let's dig deeper. Ask yourself, were you staying true to your values when you were chasing them, or were you driven by the fear of losing them, the need for their approval, or the hope that their validation would somehow complete you? Imagine you were the one always texting, always making plans, always trying to maintain the connection. Did you ever stop to think if this dynamic served you, or were you too busy trying to hold on to something that may not have been mutual? Silence is your moment to take stock. It's like stepping off a hamster wheel. Suddenly you can see how exhausting the chase was. If you've been compromising your boundaries, putting their needs above your own, or bending over backward to earn their attention, this is your chance to stop and recalibrate. Reflection isn't about regret or blame, it's about clarity. It's about recognizing where you lost yourself and deciding how to find your way back. You might wonder, what if they never reflect on their actions? What if they don't come back? Here's the truth, their reflection or lack of it is irrelevant to your growth. Whether or not they reevaluate the relationship doesn't determine your worth. As Seneca once said, "As long as you live, keep learning how to live." Use this time to ask yourself the hard questions. Were you living in alignment with your values, or were you living to win their approval? Think of a tree standing tall in a storm. It doesn't sway in the wind because it's rooted deeply. That's what Stoicism teaches us, to plant our roots in our principles, not in external circumstances. When you stop chasing someone, you stop letting them dictate your emotional state. Instead, you reclaim your power by focusing on your own growth. And here's the beauty of silence. It allows you to rediscover who you are outside of the relationship. This isn't about whether they come back or not. It's about whether you come back to yourself. If they truly value the connection, they'll feel the shift and reflect on their role in the dynamic. But if they don't, it's still a win for you. Why? Because you've chosen to prioritize your peace, your boundaries, and your self-respect. Ultimately, this is the lesson Stoicism offers. Your happiness doesn't depend on anyone else. By stepping back, you've taken a stand. You've chosen to live according to your values, to grow from this experience, and to find peace within yourself. Silence isn't just a void, it's a powerful reset. It's your weapon, your shield, and your declaration that your self-worth is non-negotiable. As you reflect, remind yourself of this truth. You've stopped chasing not because you don't care, but because you care enough to let go. 3. When they test your resolve. When someone tests your boundaries, it's not always obvious at first. It might look like a casual text after days of silence, or a carefully crafted post on social media meant to catch your eye. They might stir up situations to see if you'll react, falling back into the old dynamic where you were always chasing, always reaching. This isn't necessarily malicious, it's often their way of gauging their influence over you. But it's a pivotal moment, one that reveals where your strength truly lies. Here's where many people falter. They feel the pull of fear. Fear of losing that person for good. Fear that the silence is backfiring. Fear that if they don't respond, they'll miss their chance. And so, they react. They jump at the bait, responding immediately and chasing once again. But in doing so, they hand over their power, showing that their sense of worth is still tied to someone else's attention. A Stoic perspective flips this on its head. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. Their actions, their tests, their attempts to provoke you are entirely outside your control. What lies within your control is how you choose to respond, or whether you respond at all. Imagine this scenario. After a period of silence, they send you a message. It could be something simple, even meaningless on the surface. In that moment, your instincts might scream at you to respond immediately, to prove you're still there, still interested. But here's the truth. Your value doesn't hinge on their attention or approval. A Stoic person pauses. They ask themselves, does responding right now align with my values? Does it serve my growth, or is it just a reaction born of fear? This is where the real power lies. Whether you choose to respond or not, the decision comes from a place of strength, not insecurity. Think of boundaries as the walls of a fortress. A fortress doesn't lower its gates every time someone knocks. It evaluates who's on the other side and whether letting them in aligns with its security and purpose. Your boundaries are no different. When someone tests them, it's not about shutting them out, but about standing firm and showing that your peace cannot be easily disrupted. Questions might arise in your mind. What if they think I don't care? What if they move on? But Stoicism teaches us not to be held hostage by such fears. Epictetus reminds us, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Their perception of your actions is beyond your control. What you control is how you stand by your principles, rooted and steady. By not reacting impulsively, you demonstrate emotional strength. You show that your worth isn't tied to someone else's tests or provocations. This isn't about playing hard to get. It's about being grounded in who you are. Strength isn't loud or flashy. It's calm, measured, and unshakable. And people, whether they realize it or not, are drawn to that kind of strength. In the end, their tests say more about them than they do about you. What matters is how you use these moments to affirm your self-respect. When they test your boundaries, they're subconsciously asking, "Are you sure of yourself?" Your response or your silence is your answer. Stand firm. Your peace of mind is your strength, and that strength leaves an impression they won't forget. 4. When silence becomes the closure. When you stop talking to someone, everything shifts. Someone who once seemed indifferent might suddenly start reaching out, asking questions and seeking answers. What happened? Why did you stop texting? Did I do something wrong? This is the natural response when they feel the void you've left, and it's what we often call seeking closure. But here's the question you need to ask yourself. Do you really owe them that closure? Imagine this. You were texting back and forth, maybe even met up a few times, but something felt off. Their energy didn't match yours, or you sensed that things weren't going anywhere. So you made the choice to stop chasing, to step back and reclaim your energy. Days go by, and now they're reaching out, trying to piece together what went wrong. It's tempting to respond, to explain yourself, to give them the answers they're seeking. But at what cost? Stoicism reminds us of a fundamental truth. You control your mind, your energy, and your peace, not someone else's expectations. As Marcus Aurelius said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Their need for closure is an external event. How you respond, or whether you respond at all, is entirely within your control. Think of it this way. If giving them closure means reopening old wounds, rehashing emotions you've already let go of, or stepping back into a dynamic that drains you, is it worth it? Silence, in many cases, is a powerful form of closure. It says everything that needs to be said without uttering a word. It's not about being cold or unkind. It's about protecting your peace. Picture a still lake. When left undisturbed, it reflects the world around it perfectly. But the moment you toss a stone into it, the ripples distort everything. That's what engaging in unnecessary explanations can feel like, disrupting the calm you've worked to create. Silence allows the lake to stay still, letting the questions linger as their own kind of resolution. You might wonder, isn't it cruel to leave them without answers? Here's the thing. Closure doesn't always come from a conversation. Sometimes it comes from within. It's not your responsibility to provide the emotional clarity they're seeking, especially if it comes at the expense of your own well-being. Epictetus wisely said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Their desire for closure is about them, not you. By choosing silence, you're sending a message, not one of indifference, but of strength. You're showing that your peace isn't something you'll sacrifice for the sake of an explanation. They may not understand it at first, but in time, the silence speaks louder than words. It forces them to reflect, to find their own answers, and to confront their own role in the situation. This isn't about punishing them or playing games. It's about recognizing that you've already made your decision, and revisiting it won't serve you. True closure isn't about tying up every loose end. It's about finding peace in the decision to let go. When you stop engaging, you reclaim your time, your energy, and your clarity. In the end, silence becomes the ultimate answer. It allows you to stay grounded, to hold on to your dignity, and to protect your mental space. Their questions might linger, but that's not your burden to carry. As the Stoics teach, your power lies in staying true to yourself, not in meeting every emotional demand placed upon you. Let your silence be the closure. Let your peace remain intact, and let the unanswered questions echo as a testament to the strength you've chosen to hold. 5. When emotions rise, stay unshaken. Picture this. You've stopped chasing them. No more initiating conversations, no more texts, no more calls. You've withdrawn the attention they once took for granted, and then the emotional responses start to emerge. Maybe they react with anger, maybe sadness, or perhaps even relief. These emotions, though intense, are entirely human. But here's the Stoic truth. You don't have to let their emotions dictate your actions, your peace, or your sense of self. Emotions are like passing weather. Some days are stormy, with thunder and lightning demanding attention. Other days, the skies are calm and clear. But regardless of the forecast, the storm always passes. As Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Their anger, sadness, or relief, that's their weather. Your task is to remain grounded, like a mountain, unshaken by the winds around it. Let's take anger as an example. They might send frustrated messages, vent to friends, or even lash out because your silence disrupted their sense of control. It's tempting to defend yourself, to explain why you step back, or to respond emotionally. But what does reacting accomplish? Nothing. Stoicism teaches us to hold steady, to recognize that their anger is theirs to process. As Epictetus reminds us, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Their anger isn't yours to fix. Your calm response, or even your silence, becomes the ultimate display of strength. Now imagine they respond with sadness. Maybe they tell you they miss your attention, that your silence is painful. This might stir a sense of guilt or a desire to comfort them. But here's the thing, their sadness, though valid, is part of their journey, not yours. Attempting to soothe it might only pull you back into a dynamic you've chosen to leave behind. Sometimes, the kindest thing you can do is let them navigate those feelings without interference. You're not abandoning them. You're respecting their emotional autonomy and your own boundaries. And then there's relief. Perhaps your decision to stop chasing aligns with what they want. It might sting at first, but Stoicism offers clarity here too. Their relief is a reflection of where they stood all along. As Seneca wisely said, sometimes even to live is an act of courage. In this case, stepping back was your act of courage, choosing yourself, even if it meant facing a truth you didn't want to see. Their relief doesn't diminish your worth. It simply gives you the freedom to move forward with dignity. At the heart of Stoicism lies the principle of control. You cannot control how someone feels, what they think, or how they react to your silence. Their emotions belong to them, just as your peace belongs to you. What you can control is your response. Will you let their emotional shifts pull you back into old patterns, or will you remain steady in your decision to prioritize your inner calm? Think of yourself as a ship in a stormy sea. The waves crash and the wind howls, but your anchor holds firm. The storm might rage, but it cannot move you if you remain grounded in your principles. Their emotions, no matter how intense, are temporary. Your steadiness, your commitment to peace, is what endures. This isn't about being indifferent or cold. It's about recognizing the power of staying calm when emotions rise. Their feelings, while valid, are not your responsibility. When you hold on to this truth, you reclaim your strength, protect your peace, and remind yourself that your worth is not tied to anyone else's emotional state. The storm will pass, and you'll still be standing, unshaken and stronger than ever. 6. Your worth was never in their hands. When you stop chasing someone, something powerful begins to unfold. They start evaluating your worth. Suddenly, the dynamic shifts. They may begin to reflect on who you were in their life, the role you played, and the energy you brought. But here's where many people get it wrong. They let this moment become all about the other person's opinion. They start spiraling with thoughts like, do they still care? Do they see my value now? Here's the truth that Stoicism drives home. Your worth has never been and will never be in someone else's hands. Not theirs, not anyone's. As Marcus Aurelius said, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. Your value is rooted in who you are, your actions, your principles, and how true you remain to them, not in how someone else perceives you. Think of it this way. When you stop chasing, it creates a void. They start to think about the dynamic, about the stability you provided, about how you carried yourself with strength and composure. Maybe they reflect on your calmness under pressure, or how you never let emotions cloud your judgment. But while they're re-evaluating, you're not sitting by the phone waiting. You're not letting their reflection dictate your direction. Instead, you're focused inward, grounding yourself deeper in your own values. Imagine you've stopped initiating conversations. Silence fills the space where your energy used to be. It's natural to wonder, are they missing me? Do they regret taking me for granted? But Stoicism reminds us that these questions are distractions. As Epictetus wisely said, wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. If you're constantly seeking external validation through their attention, their compliments, or their approval, you're tying your worth to something you can't control. Here's the metaphor. Think of your worth as a mountain. It doesn't crumble because the wind shifts, and it doesn't grow because someone admires its beauty. The mountain is steadfast, unchanging, and self-sufficient. That's the energy you need to embrace. Whether they're impressed by your strength or indifferent to it is irrelevant. Your value doesn't fluctuate with their opinion. Now you might wonder, what if they don't see my worth? What if they never come back? The Stoic answer is clear. That's not your concern. Their perception doesn't add to or subtract from your value. As Seneca put it, the good things which belong to prosperity are to be wished, but the good things that belong to adversity are to be admired. If they don't see your worth, it's their loss, not yours. You've already won the moment you stopped relying on their validation. The beauty of stepping back is that it forces them to reevaluate. Maybe they see that you're not like others who endlessly seek approval. Maybe they realize your confidence wasn't performative, but deeply rooted in who you are. That's attractive, not because you're trying to impress them, but because true self-worth is magnetic. It shows that you're whole with or without them. In the end, this isn't about whether they come back or not. It's about whether you've found strength in stepping away. When you stop chasing, you shift the focus from their evaluation to your own. Are you living up to your standards? Are you grounded in your values? Are you treating yourself with the respect you deserve? These are the questions that matter, not whether someone else recognizes your worth. Your value isn't something that can be granted or revoked by anyone. It's in the way you carry yourself, the consistency of your actions, and your commitment to living with integrity. Whether they miss you, appreciate you, or move on doesn't change that. As long as you stay true to yourself, you'll remain unshaken, just as the Stoics taught. Let them evaluate all they want. Your worth was never in their hands to begin with. 7. When they reach out, stay grounded. You've stopped chasing. No more late-night texts, no more plans, no more reaching out. Silence fills the space where your effort used to be, and then, out of nowhere, they reach out. Maybe it's curiosity, maybe they miss the attention, or perhaps they're wondering why you've pulled away. But here's the moment of truth. What do you do now? Do you rush back in, eager to reignite what was lost, Or do you pause, reflect, and act with purpose? This is where Stoicism offers its timeless wisdom. Stoicism reminds us not to act on impulse or emotion, but to respond with reason and clarity. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The nearer a man comes to a calm mind, the closer he is to strength." When they reach out, it's easy to feel a rush of excitement or hope, but Stoicism teaches you to master those feelings, to remain calm and deliberate in your actions. Imagine they send a casual message, something like, "Hey, it's been a while. How are you?" The old you might have jumped at the opportunity, pouring energy into rekindling the connection, driven by the hope of returning to how things were. But now, with Stoic principles as your guide, you understand the importance of pausing. Ask yourself, what's truly driving this message? Are they genuinely interested in reconnecting, or are they just testing to see if they still hold sway over you? Think of this moment as a chess game. Your move doesn't need to be reactive or rushed. Instead, it should be deliberate, reflective of your inner strength and self-respect. A Stoic response might be calm and composed, something like, "I'm doing well, thank you." "Hope you're doing great too." It's respectful, but doesn't give away too much. It keeps the balance in your favor by showing that you're not driven by desperation or lingering attachment. Now you might wonder, but what if this is a chance to rekindle what we had? Here's the truth. If they genuinely value you, they'll make it known through their actions, not just a casual message. As Seneca wisely said, "The greatest wealth is to live content with little." You don't need their attention to feel whole. Your worth isn't tied to whether they decide to stay, leave, or return. You already have everything you need within yourself. When you stop chasing, the dynamic changes. They start to notice the absence of your attention, and many will reach out simply to test whether they still have control over your focus. This isn't about them, it's about you. Are you grounded enough to respond from a place of inner strength, or will you let old patterns pull you back into the chase? Imagine a flame that you've let die down. When they reach out, it's like a spark testing whether the fire can reignite. But as a Stoic, you decide whether to fan that flame or let it remain extinguished. Your decision isn't based on their actions or expectations. It's based on what aligns with your peace of mind. In the end, their reasons for reaching out are outside your control. What you can control is how you choose to respond. Stoicism teaches that your sense of fulfillment doesn't come from external validation, but from staying true to your principles. Whether you respond with calm composure or choose not to engage at all, the power lies in acting with intention, not emotion. This is the strength of a Stoic, being grounded, composed, and in control no matter how the winds shift around you. When they reach out, it's not about what they want, it's about who you've become in their absence. You don't need their message to feel valued. Your worth is rooted in your ability to stay steady, to respond with reason, and to protect your peace above all else. That is true strength. 8. Letting go to move forward. When you stop chasing at first, there's uncertainty. The silence feels strange and questions creep in. Will they notice? Do they even care? But here's the truth. What they do next isn't the point. The real transformation begins with you. This is where Stoicism becomes your guide, showing you that the most important shift isn't about them. It's about regaining your emotional balance and reclaiming your self-worth. When you step back, you're no longer tied to the exhausting cycle of seeking validation. You're not waiting for their replies or craving their attention. Instead, you're choosing something deeper, self-respect. As Marcus Aurelius once said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. The happiness and peace you're searching for don't come from someone else's response. They come from within. So what might they do when you stop chasing? Maybe they'll reach out, wondering why the dynamic has shifted, or maybe they won't, leaving you in a silence that once would have felt unbearable. The key here is understanding that their reaction doesn't define your worth. Whether they notice or not, you've already taken the most important step, letting go of the need for external validation and trusting in your ability to stand strong on your own. Imagine a river flowing downstream, constantly being pushed and pulled by the currents. When you chase someone, you're like that river, always trying to adapt, always moving toward them. But when you stop, you become a still lake, calm, reflective, and unshaken by outside forces. It's this stillness, this steadiness, that allows you to see the bigger picture and focus on your own life, your own goals. Perhaps you've stopped texting them, realizing you were the one always keeping the connection alive. At first, the silence might feel heavy, but then something remarkable happens. You feel lighter. You're no longer checking your phone obsessively, waiting for a reply, or overthinking every interaction. You're living for yourself again, free from the weight of constant expectation. Now here's a question you might have. What if they never reach out? What if this is the end? Stoicism teaches us to embrace uncertainty with grace. As Epictetus said, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Their absence isn't the loss, it's an opportunity. You've shifted your focus from needing their validation to building your own peace. Whether they come back or not, you've already won by choosing yourself. This isn't just about moving on from them, it's about moving forward in your own life. It's about recognizing that your value doesn't come from someone else's attention, but from the way you live your life in alignment with your principles. The confidence you gain from this inner shift isn't just attractive, it's magnetic. When you let go of attachment, you free yourself to be fully present in your own journey. And here's the ultimate realization. Whether they come back into your life or not becomes secondary. What matters is that you've grown stronger, more resilient, and more aligned with your values. True dignity doesn't come from convincing someone else of your worth. It comes from acting in accordance with your own standards. You're no longer tied to the outcome because you've already gained something far more valuable: emotional freedom. As you continue forward, remember this: the power to move on isn't about leaving someone behind. It's about returning to yourself. Your worth is intrinsic, and your peace isn't something anyone else can give or take away. Let your actions reflect the strength within you, and let your presence speak for itself. If this resonates with you, embrace the change. Hit the like button, subscribe for more insights, and share this with someone who needs it. Keep building your strength and let the Stoic way guide you forward. You've already begun the most important journey, the journey back to yourself.